I am Ray, and if you can't discern truth from lies, you are not in control of your mind. Somebody else is. Now, a wise man once said,
"Now, I believe there have always been stupid people, but the internet provides greater opportunity for stupidity to be expressed and paraded. In this day and age with the internet, ignorance is a choice, and they're still choosing ignorance. Now, retard..."
But with so many options, what are we supposed to believe? And especially in the spiritual community, there are so many ideas for us to follow. How do we know which ones are garbage? And which ones will actually help us? You see, most people are not taught to critically think. More coffee? Now, one of the first signs that somebody is vulnerable to lies and to deceit, they have a weak mental firewall. Hope you can see that. You should have got McAfee Plus. What this means is that information can just directly enter into your mind without you sorting through it. Now, this happens a lot with gurus and online personalities like me, because what happens, biologically speaking, the moment you trust somebody, you kind of just accept everything they say, because it takes a lot of energy to always be thinking, well, is what this person said nonsense, or is it true? We all have this kind of trust rating in our own mind about people. And the moment you trust somebody, your mental firewall comes down, because you don't really need to be so concerned. They've done you good in the past, so we assume they will do us good in the future. But this is how people can bypass your conscious filter. One great example, I was talking to my friend last night about Mr. Donald Trump, the president. He's a great example of this. When somebody speaks with confidence, with self-assuredness, our unconscious, or the intelligence of our body, kind of just assumes by default what they are saying is the truth. If you speak lies confidently, people will assume it to be true by default. And if you speak the truth without confidence, without the proper body language, without the proper vocal tonality, people will automatically assume what you have said are lies. Because most of us primarily operate from feelings. If something feels right, we accept it. But if something feels wrong, we automatically put our guard up. But what happens is that if you begin logically thinking about what the person said, you go from feeling to thinking. That is where you expose whether or not what they said was lies or nonsense. And so my friend was wondering, well, why do so many people just believe Donald Trump? Because, well, he said, it sounds like everything he says is nonsense. Constantly spouting lies, and people just eat it up. Now, I like Donald Trump, but that's beside the point. What I said was, when you feel confident about what you say, when you're a confident individual, it's easy to bypass people's logical mind. And this is what marketing does as well. Almost all of marketing, they spend millions and billions of dollars learning how to hijack your unconscious. Think about it. Every single day you go and buy things. You might not know why you buy it, but there was carefully crafted seeds planted in your mind that cause you to buy without your conscious awareness. Certain colors, certain words, the way that things are phrased. And when we speak, vocal tonality, body language, and the moment you like somebody, it becomes easy to just accept everything they say. We ignore the flaws of our friends, and we ignore the virtues of our enemy. And that is because of something called the RAS, the reticular activation system. Now, I'm not a scientist, so forgive me for my vast ignorance. But what this means is selective focus. Have you ever been in a relationship with anybody where they think you're just the bee's knees? You can't do anything wrong, you're perfect. But have you also been in a situation where it doesn't matter what you do right, they always look at you negatively? You could do 99 things right, but the one thing you do wrong, they focus on that. It's called an RAS flip. The moment you've decided somebody is good, you focus only on the good. And the moment you decide somebody is bad, you focus only on the bad. So we have to begin becoming aware of this tendency, aware of our biological nature to do these things. Because, for instance, you may like me. Well, thank you. I love you as well. But you have to understand, I'm still a human being, okay? I might say things that are wrong sometimes. Pump the brakes, my friend. We want to slow down and not react so unconsciously to things. I want you, my friend, to be able to think for yourself. In fact, I need you to be able to tell me when I am going wrong. Because if you're just in an echo chamber, it doesn't help anybody. But it is in the contrast of different opinions and viewpoints in which growth can happen. But our tendency is to just agree with everything somebody says once we like them. And there will be people who don't like me, who think everything I say is stupid. And that doesn't help either. But you want to be critically minded, to be able to think without attachment, without bias. And one important way that we do this is essentially, you could say, standing on your own 2 feet. What does this mean? You see, on our journey, we often rely on others to help guide us to the truth, and that is okay. But eventually, you realize that the experts that you look up to, they are just human. I am just like you, but I doubt you have a funny t-shirt. So I guess we're not the same. Simply put, you rely on your own understanding. You don't need to rely on the experts anymore. Not that you don't listen to what they say, but that you can be confident in your own ways of looking at the world. And what this allows you to do is focus on yourself rather than rely on somebody else. As it is said, eventually you come to the realization that your parents can't really help you anymore. You grow up and you become an adult, and eventually you find yourself alone. At the end of the day, you have to figure it out yourself. But if you're always relying on other people, you give your power away. And what happens is that instead of thinking for yourself, you just kind of become a mouthpiece for other people's ideas. And you see this when people repeat like a cliche or something like that. But there's no power behind it. It's not bad to repeat other people's ideas. But the problem is when you don't have any experience to back those words up. And you will see this a lot in the spiritual community, where we're always kind of just repeating things we've heard, but we've never really experienced ourselves. I'm sure I'm guilty of this, but we hear things from multiple sources, and then we just assume that it is true. The problem is that if you assume something is true without really understanding why, the information is not useful. It doesn't help you. It's just an idea. And those ideas attach themselves to us like parasites. In Reality Transurfing, the book, this is called a pendulum. Pendulum. And what this is like, take an idea and you have a bunch of individuals all being like mouthpieces for this idea. So in the spiritual community, some examples are, there's a million examples. Let's just use the idea of manifestation for a moment as a pendulum. Here are just a few ideas. Reality is a reflection of you. You attract what you are. We live in an attraction-based universe. You always create more of what you focus on. Circumstances don't matter. State of being only matters. Now, some people in a spiritual community, like Bashar, or like Abraham Hicks, or let's say Joe Dispenza. Where's another one? You got people like Neville Goddard, Napoleon Hill. And what you will find is that each one of these individuals, in their own unique way, they're expressing this pendulum, this idea, and they're feeding it their energy. This pendulum, this idea, is like a living thing. It wants to survive. So what happens? We hear people like this talk about this idea of manifestation, and then we feed the idea our energy. As Carl Jung said, people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. And what we have to discover, if you want to be free from lies, to avoid being manipulated and deceived, we have to understand when we're in the grip of these kinds of ideas. This is not good or bad, but if we're not careful, we can become a slave to these things. And it can blind us from the truth. Because you can hear reality as a reflection of you from many different sources. And because, human beings are designed to rely on other people's perspectives for the truth. So we just assume that it's true. But if we do not have direct experience that this is the truth, then we simply become a mouthpiece for the pendulum or the idea. And we have no power behind our words. And when you speak about it, it's like the blind leading the blind. Because other people have heard it before, they accept it as true as well. And it doesn't matter if it is true or not. It's the principle of the matter. Don't just believe something because you've heard it. This is about building systems in our mind. Systems. Building a machine that is able to cut through the lies and find the gold in the dirt. And so be wary of simply accepting ideas that you've heard just because they sound nice, just because they sound right. Even if they are true, just be wary of our tendency to accept things without really having experience. And you will save yourself a lot of trouble in the long term. One thing that it is good to do is to begin questioning your beliefs. Why do I believe this? Why do I believe that? Are these even my beliefs, or are they something that somebody else has programmed into me? And a good rule of thumb: never entertain ideas or beliefs that do not serve you. Whatever belief you have, ask yourself, is this serving me, or is this making my life worse? And you might ask, well, why would I believe something that does not serve me? But people are doing this all the time. You get to believe whatever you want to believe. And so it doesn't make any sense to entertain negative beliefs about yourself or negative beliefs about the world. And even if you think something is true, it is important to question the nature of that idea. Why is it true? Am I just believing it into existence? Or is it actually true? And you could say that any belief that does not serve you is just false. It's just wrong. And a lot of people, they disguise pessimism as being a realist. No, my reality is negative. I am stupid. I'm not, but maybe you have said that before. And we justify it by saying, this is what reality seems like, so it must be true. But if it's negative, throw it away. You don't need it anymore. Reality can be anything you'd like it to be. Because the thing is, reality is being filtered through us, being filtered through our mind. So whatever information we have in our mind, reality is getting filtered through that and projected out. So we don't know whether something is actually the truth or whether or not it's just our own projection. And so often the thing is, whatever you believe is true will be true for you. Whether you believe you can or believe you can't, both will be true. And so the trick is understanding that the universe is perfectly balanced between negativity and positivity. It doesn't matter what you think is true, it matters what you choose to focus on. Because ruminating on negativity can only serve to make your life worse. So it doesn't make any sense. Stop it. And what I mean by ruminating on negativity, I don't mean just ignoring it and pretending like it doesn't exist. For instance, if you're going over a mistake of the past or something negative that has happened, there is a difference between woe is me and trying to solve the problem, seeing where you went wrong, reflecting. That is not ruminating on negativity. That is transmuting negativity into positivity. So don't fall into this trap of, I only gotta focus on what is positive. There is good and bad in all things. It's about your attitude. And so when you look at things like the news or social media, and the situation of the world seems dark and gloomy, no, it is just because that is what you're looking at. You can also have a positive attitude and find the good. And a pessimist trying to be a realist will say, you're delusional. You're naive. The world is bad. It is negative. No, how you see the world is a confession of character. Life is a reflection of you. Be careful. Now, a very important thing. When you're in a negative state of being, you have to throw away the data. What do I mean? Is that when you're in a negative state of being, life is being filtered through this negative lens. So all the information, all of your thoughts, all of your beliefs in that negative state are corrupted by negativity. And if you believe your thoughts in a negative state, you might act on them and ruin your life. So one important thing, don't believe a single thing your mind tells you when you're in a negative state. Don't try to analyze the world. Don't try to wrestle with your thoughts, because that negative bias prevents you from seeing clearly. And what you find too is that, well, sometimes when you're in a positive state, that can too blind you from the truth. In order to discern the truth from lies, we need clarity. And we have to recognize the ways our emotions keep us from clarity. Because when we're in a strong emotional state, negative or positive, life is being filtered through that lens. It's just something to be aware of, that we don't necessarily need to believe all of our thoughts or all of the things we hear. The fundamental principle is recognizing our own bias, our tendency to believe certain things and ignore other things. Be wary of our emotional states and seek clarity. Learn to be non-attached. How do you know if you're non-attached? There is no emotion behind it. So, for instance, if you have a religious belief and somebody can trigger you and get you all emotional, you know with 100% certainty you are not in clarity. You are being blinded from the truth. And you know when you have clarity, when somebody can attack your beliefs and you do not react because you are not attached. Clarity, non-attachment, awareness, these all go together. Awareness is light, and awareness leads you to the truth. But unconsciousness, attachment, ignorance, darkness, illusion, these things prevent you from seeing the truth. And so one of the key things is we want to not be attached to our beliefs, to the frameworks in which we perceive the world, because all attachments are like filters that bend the way we see reality. It's not wrong to have beliefs, just don't be attached to them. And you know you're on the right path when you're willing to give up any belief at the first sign of new evidence, to give them up for the sake of the truth, whereas most people sacrifice the truth for their own beliefs. And what truly keeps us in ignorance and allows us to most easily be deceived is ego. Attachment to identity. Because if I have an identity about being religious, that's going to shape the way I see the world, and it's going to cut me off from the truth. Because if I have a strong attachment to being a Christian, I automatically reject other religions, like Buddhism or Hinduism. Or if I have a strong attachment to being Muslim, I immediately ignore all other religions and say, no, my religion is right and yours is wrong. Any strong attachment to any identity will keep you stuck in ego. These people are other, and this is you. And so this creates judgment. I am right, you're wrong. This creates fight and conflict. My beliefs are better than yours. And because the other person thinks the same thing, what else is there to do but fight? You should be able to have a conversation about anything without being triggered. Because the moment you get triggered, the moment you lack clarity. So there is work to be done, my friend. And what this really comes down to is being open to change. You see, my religion is the truth. And when you seek the truth, you shall find it. I don't care about beliefs, because beliefs can change in an instant. I have developed a machine, my mind, that actively seeks the truth and is able to discern and cut through the lies. And all you have to do is prioritize the truth and deprioritize your beliefs, your identities. Be willing to surrender and give them up. And most people are so attached to their beliefs that they just won't do it. And so they remain stuck in ignorance. Sorry. You also want the mindset of self-mastery. Because when you seek to master yourself, you will naturally strive toward the truth. Because ignorance will keep you in lower states of being. They will keep you stuck. And so on this journey of self-mastery, you will discover that you have certain hidden beliefs that are keeping you stuck from where you want to go. And often these beliefs are just programs, whether from childhood, from your parents, from society at large. And we have to be willing to give up those beliefs. We want freedom. And attachment is slavery. Really, it comes down to simply being neutral or stoic. Be not on one side or the other, but see both. Play the devil's advocate. Look at the beliefs that are opposite to yours, and see if you can try to make sense of them. And don't strawman their arguments, which means that you make their arguments weaker so you can easily debunk them. But steelman their arguments. Make their arguments as powerful as possible. Try to destroy your own beliefs. And what this will allow you to do, if you're honest with yourself, is that you will develop such strong understanding because you're actively trying to debunk your own beliefs. And when you can't debunk your own beliefs anymore, you can assume that you are accurate because the truth is eternal. The truth is unchanging. So we want to develop the most accurate worldview possible. We want to see life most clearly. And to do so, we need to cut away our attachments. Because most of us are a slave to certain ideas, to certain beliefs, to certain ways of thinking. And when we become detached from those beliefs, we become open to receive. This is why Socrates was wise when he said, "All I know is that I know nothing." Because when you think you know, you cut yourself off from the truth. But the moment you realize that you do not know, you are open to receive the truth. I am Ray. Visit my cool store. Much peace and many blessings. And remember, just be.